Today we're looking at peace and freedom, peace of mind and freedom from fear. A couple of weeks ago I gave a talk on the idea of prayer and what we are usually looking for in our prayers, in answers to our prayer. We are looking for a resolution of a condition, generally, but the bottom line of what we're really looking for is peace and freedom. Peace of mind and freedom from fear. And we feel that we can achieve these things when the thing is resolved. And we're going to look today at the idea of working toward achieving them before the problem that we're faced with is solved. That's where our strength comes from. And I picked this photograph today because I'll be talking about Jesus saying if you say to this mountain, be cast into the sea, it'll be done. I'll elaborate on that in just a moment, but I like this because the reflection, in a sense, the mountain is already in the sea. It's there. And it's a matter of embracing that idea that it exists in both places. So whatever our mountain is, and we'll look at that idea in depth here, but I just thought that was a very appropriate picture. I don't know where the mountain is, and I don't know if that's a lake or a sea or whatever, but I thought the idea was a good one. So when we pray for anything, a health challenge, a prosperity issue, or difficulty in relationships, it's important to remind ourselves what we're actually praying for. In nearly every case, we can reduce our need to peace of mind and freedom from fear. So if you give this some thought, if you've got an issue going on in your life now, and now is the best time to look at that, to see what's happening in your life now, what is it you would like to resolve in your life at this moment? And you ask yourself, why would I like to resolve this? And the answer that we will come up with almost always has to do with the condition. Say we have a health challenge. I would like to resolve this health challenge because I don't want to be confronted with it. I don't like the way I feel. I want to get past it, and that's obvious that we want to do that. If we have a financial challenge, same thing. We want to somehow increase our prosperity or take care of that bill that looks like it's bigger than we were expecting or whatever. But if you look at the bottom line of what you're trying to achieve at the spiritual level, the mental, emotional, spiritual level, it always has to do with the states of mind of, I want to achieve peace of mind. I want to have peace of mind about this thing. And I want to be free of the fear that I may be experiencing right now. And so what we do is we make those two things conditional. And prayer is the act of seeing beyond the appearance. We're not really looking at the appearance. We're looking at it, but we're looking at what it's doing to us, what it's triggering in us. And that's really where we want to begin. And just bear in mind that we're not talking about sidestepping the resolution of normal problems that we all have. You know, we want to get through whatever it is we're dealing with. And we all are dealing with something. We want to reach a resolution of the things that we're dealing with. But again, where does the spiritual thing come in? Does it enable us to actually manipulate the three-dimensional world? Is that what we're trying to do? And we always need to remember that our prayer is directed first to our consciousness, to ourselves, to our own, how we're feeling, the experience we're having in the internal world that we inhabit, because that's the one that makes the difference. If you are upset about something, then nothing will satisfy you. If you are not upsettable, if you are unable to get upset, then whatever's going on, you can handle just fine. So that's what we are looking at. And again, we're not trying to sidestep dealing with normal daily issues, because we all have them, and we want to deal with them. But we start at the place that's most accessible to us, that is our own inner experience. The first step in resolving an issue that confronts us is to realize that experiencing peace of mind and freedom from fear are always accessible. And that's really the question we have to ask ourselves. Do we believe that's true? Do I believe that I can have peace of mind even when this thing is going on? Or that I could be free from fear even while it's going on? Do I believe that? Do I believe that's possible? And again, we're not saying let's discount the outer thing, and if it's something that's a real concern for us, naturally we're going to have a response to it, and it may not be a real positive response. But that's the first question we ask ourselves. Okay, here I am, and I'm afraid, I'm angry, I'm not feeling peaceful about this situation. So I ask myself, with everything I know about spirit, I say God is omnipresent, God is everywhere present equally at the same time. If God is peace, then is God absent at this moment and will show up again when my prayer is answered, when my problem is resolved? Is that how I approach the problem? And so I use prayer as some kind of a magic formula to zap the problem. And when the problem is zapped, then God as peace returns. That's kind of our normal logic. And I think all of us understand that. You know, it's normal logic because we all understand it. When the problem's gone, I'll be peaceful. But the question is it possible to achieve some level of peace before the problem is gone, before the thing is resolved? Is it possible to experience freedom? Freedom from fear of this thing, freedom from fear of the outcome of this thing. Is it possible for me to achieve that, even while it's going on? And all you have to do is answer that question. Then you'll decide how you take your next step. If you say, yes, it is possible, then what steps can you take now to actually tap into that freedom from fear and that peace of mind? What steps can we take at this very moment? I was going through something this week that was not real pleasant, at least in my thinking. I was uptight about it. I don't know if that's a word we use today or not, but I grew up with that word. But I was actually working on this talk, and I was thinking, you know, this is a good opportunity. There's no time like the now to see if this works. Well, I know it works already, but I wasn't working it. And it doesn't matter how many principles we have in our heads, you know, it's what we want to employ. And so as I was sitting at my computer, kind of stressed out, I started thinking, I can let this go. I can let this energy go. I talk about this all the time. This problem I'm having at this moment is a mental and emotional reaction to a vision, to a visualization that I hold. Who's in charge of that? Who's running that show? Who's agreeing to let it play? Who's agreeing to let it upset you? And I couldn't come up with a list of anybody else because I was the only one there sitting by myself. The problem I was thinking about wasn't there. I was just there having the problem, and it's all in my head. And it wasn't a big thing, and that's the thing, is they don't have to be big things for you to get uptight about them. It's most of our life is little things that we're thinking about and having negative reactions to. And that's, so we become conscious. Okay, I'm doing this thing to myself. I'm thinking about this thing in a way that is saying it's taking away my power, and I don't have the ability to be peaceful. So I was thinking, do I? Is peace still here? Is this not what I know is true? That I say God is present all the time, God as peace is present all the time. The problem is I'm not present all the time. I'm somewhere else. I'm off trying to resolve something I can't handle, I can't deal with, because it's not in this now moment. So I bring my awareness into this now moment and just begin to relax, to watch what's going on in my thought. If I see my thought run off to that problem that I can do nothing about, I pull it back. It's amazing what you can do in just a few minutes of relaxation. And you don't have to go way down into yourself and have this deep mystical experience. You can if you want. It's there. That's the thing. You know, this level of peace that we're seeking is kind of the top of the surface level of the spiritual thing. You can take it as deep as you want. The full presence of God is always present, and you could have the most profound mystical experience you could imagine right now because it's there, it's accessible. But we are not. We're not there. So let's not worry about that at the moment. Just deal with what's going on at the surface of your mind and ask, is there some way I can control this? Is there some way I can not be doing this to myself? So that's the first question. And if we don't agree that there is something we can do, and we can actually change the level of experience we're having. Because the reasoning that we usually kick in here is, well, okay, I can feel good about it, but it's still there. It's still a problem. And again, we don't want to deny that. We don't want to pretend like that's not true or not a fact. But what is the quality of our life, and when will that improve? When we solve the last problem in our life? How many of you have solved the last problem you'll ever deal with in your life? How many have thought you did, or thought if you solve that last problem or that big problem down the road, that would be all the problems you'd ever have, you'd never have to deal with it again? None of us think that. So we say, okay, then what is the quality of my life? It's how I'm responding. It's that inner thought, feeling, that emotional response to this thing I can't really do anything about. Well, I can do something about it, and we're talking about what that is. I can begin to think about it differently. I can begin to say, peace, be still. A very simple statement, peace, be still. Just don't try to resolve it, just be still. Let it go. And let your emotion follow that. Feel yourself releasing your reaction, your emotional reaction, or the reaction at the emotional level. And your body actually begins, at least in my case, I feel the relaxation comes from the solar plexus first and works out. So we ask ourselves this question, okay, doing something like this in the quiet of your room isn't going to solve the problem. But when you are at peace with yourself, when you're at peace with this problem, aren't you better equipped to solve it? Aren't you better equipped to get new ideas, new ways of looking at this problem? Aren't you more empowered to handle the situation? And many times, the problem is not even what it seems or what we think it is. It's something we've manufactured. It's a what if, what if, what if. We keep building on a what if, as I've said before, and we get away from the what is. And pretty soon the thing we're dealing with has nothing to do with what's actually going on. But it's a very important thing. This is the metaphysical side of the teachings that we're engaged in. It's what's going on inside of us at this moment. Not outside. We all are quite aware of that. What's going on inside, that's what we want to look at, be aware of. So Jesus says, whoever says to this mountain, be taken up and cast into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will come to pass, it will be done for him. This is a very profound statement, and it's one that seems almost impossible. Because what do we think of when we think of a mountain? Is we think of that healing need that we have, we think of that financial problem, we think of the thing outside of ourselves that we just don't know what to do. We don't know how to solve it. We think of that as the mountain. So, what are we feeling when we think of our challenge? Most of us would acknowledge that we harbor a sense of uneasiness that may rise to a level of fear. Our mountain is the feeling and the thought that we hold. If we make it that, let's just say, let's make it that. We can say to this mountain, be cast into the sea. The illustration I just gave, I proved to myself at that moment again that I can say to the mountain I was building up in my own consciousness that I can actually do something about you. I can cast you into the sea. And to not doubt in your heart, that's the emotional peace that comes with knowing you're resolving this inner conflict. But I think that is the key to understanding what he said, to make the mountain what's going on in you, not the thing out there. Because you can cast that in the sea. Shift your focus from the external challenge and think of your mountain as the uneasiness you're experiencing. We can let go of the emotional power that we're giving to the situation and achieve some level of peace and freedom. And I think that's always the place to start, the place to begin. It's usually the last place we go, because when a thing can hit us in the face, it's there and in our face, and we react to that situation. It's the knee-jerk natural thing. That's what's in front of us. And we don't really even think about how the thought and feeling patterns that begins to generate. We begin to generate as a result of that. But that's what becomes the mountain, and that's the mountain we can deal with. It's not the thing that hits us in the face. And again, how would you rather deal with a problem from a place of power or from a place of weakness? Most of us start from a place of weakness. That's why prayer is generally thought of as a beseeching activity. God, I have this problem. It's bigger than me. Please help me. Give me something to empower me to get through it. So the mountain is that thing out there. And the prayer is, drop something out of the sky into my life that'll help me. I'm separate from my good. I'm not in charge of my thoughts and feelings. This thing is making my thoughts and feelings do something I don't want them to do. So the mountain is one that I would laugh at. Most of us said, okay, I've got this problem and I'm praying about it and I'm trying to cast it into the sea and it's still there. But I guarantee if you make the mountain how you react to this thing, whatever your issue is, you can cast it in the sea. You can make a decision, you can make a choice to feel differently, to think differently about this thing. And again, you may want to just set it aside, just stop thinking about it altogether and just start affirming peace. I'm at peace. Or peace be still. Speak to your own mind. Peace be still. And let go and let those emotional waves that are battering you about, let them be still. Speak to this storm. So we stop attacking the mountain, the thing that we call the mountain, the thing outside of ourselves, and we call the mountain our reaction to it. And we remind ourselves that I am an infinite expression of God, that peace is never absent, power is never absent, intelligence is never absent, life and love, always with me. And I begin to pull from that. And I don't try to beat down the problem, because what did Jesus say about resist not that which is evil? That picture that I can do nothing about is evil, in the sense that the more I resist that thing, the more power I give it. And so the idea of non-resistance is to let go of that, get off that battlefield. It's not easy to do, but that's where we want to start with our prayer, with our dealing with our mountain. Stop calling the mountain the thing that looks like the mountain, and start calling it what it really is, that inner experience of how you think and how you feel. Because you can, all of us can do something about that mountain, that inner metaphysical mountain. And if you've got something going on in your life right now, and that's one thing that we experience when we come to a place like this, you can have something going on and say, I think I really need to get to church today because I need some inspiration. And so you come here and you get some inspiration. You still got the problem, but you're inspired. You've got something, a different way to think about it, a different way to approach it. And that's what we want. We want to change the inner experience we're having. So we understand what the real problem is, what the real mountain is. It's how we're dealing with thought and emotion, with whatever it is we're looking at in our life. This may require a concerted effort of sitting still with the express intention of reaching the point where you do not doubt in your heart that you have released or cast into the sea the negative energy of fear and doubt. It's kind of funny how we resist that. It's like the woman was saying, who did Russia invade? The Ukrainian woman. The people were praying for Ukraine, and the woman said, we appreciate your prayers, we'd rather have ammunition and artillery, weapons. When we're having a problem, I think that's how most of us feel. Prayer, thank you, that's nice that you're sending your positive thoughts my way, but I really need some actual help. And that's right, we do. There's nothing wrong with asking for that kind of thing and focusing on that kind of thing. But first of all, from a spiritual point of view, why do we engage in this type of teaching? We want to address our own household. The greatest enemies are those of our own household. And that's the thought and feeling patterns that we engage in, the reactions to the things that we are looking at in life. So it requires a concerted effort. We sit down to become still and begin to release this. That seems exactly backwards. Like, I don't want to sit down and be still. I want to go after and fix this problem. It's also been compared to the bow and arrow. To shoot an arrow from a bow, you first pull the arrow back. You go the opposite direction, away from the target. And by doing that, you gain power. And then you let go. And you release the arrow. It's a very similar idea. And I think that's a Zen idea. Somebody came up with that a long time ago. But it makes a lot of sense. The last thing you want to do is let go when you're dealing with a problem. You want to think about it, and you want to worry about it, and you want to react to it in fear. Or you think you have no choice but to do all these things. So it takes a concerted effort to sit down and say, I'm going to change my definition of the mountain. And I'm going to put it in a place I can do something about. That is my own thought and emotion. During this prayer exercise, take your attention away from the outer condition and focus only on the internal experience. Know that your affirmative prayer is fulfilled the moment you achieve peace of mind and freedom from fear. So I've said that for years, is your prayer is answered by how you feel. Not by what's going on outside of yourself, but by how you feel. You reach a point where you feel at peace about it, then you'll be okay. And you take the next step and the next step and the next step, and as long as you keep that steady knowing that that which is in me is greater than that which is in the world, somehow you will walk through this issue, and you'll walk through it successfully. But don't we want to make every step that we take make that our life and make that a good part of our life. Because as we talk about all the time, where else can you be other than that one place where you take that one step? That is where we are. And if the quality of life in this now moment is not good, is there something we can do about it? Because this is all I have. This is my life. And the answer is always yes. But we may need to bridle ourselves. We may need to grab ourselves by the shoulder and sit ourselves down in a chair and commit to being peaceful, commit to reaching that center of power. During this prayer exercise, you take your attention away from the outer condition and focus only on your internal experience, only on your internal experience. You know your affirmative prayers fulfill the moment you achieve peace of mind and freedom from fear. Problem solving through prayer follows the same principle regardless of the size of the challenge. And I think that's why Jesus used the illustration of a mountain. The mountain is this huge thing. Nobody could think about casting a real mountain out into the sea. It's a way to illustrate there's no problem too big, and they're all the same. It's the inner counterpart that we build. That's where we focus our attention. That's the real mountain. Start with your own energy and believe that what you say will come to pass, and it will be done for you. But let it be done for you in that moment. Achieve that peace of mind and freedom from fear in the very moment you're praying for it. Okay? Thank you for watching this week's program. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with others. We want to reach as many people as we can, and we appreciate your help. If you'd like to help support this ministry, just click the donate card at the top right-hand corner of your screen. Your financial support means a lot to us. We have many subjects in our video lineup, so feel free to take a look. If there's a topic you don't see and would like me to address, just put it in the comment section. I'd love to know what's on your mind. To subscribe to this channel, simply click our logo. Thanks again for your interest in Independent Unity, and have a wonderful week.